Welcome. My name is Joe Johnstone, and I am here with Green Futures Now, where we strive to bring awareness and recognition to environmental activist groups across the Warrnambool region. Joining us today from Mad for the Merri is Karen Wales.
Hi, Joe.
Firstly, could you tell me what it is that Mad for the Merri does and what does it stand for?
Sure. So Mad for the Merri started about 2007. It was a group of the Catchment Management Authority, city councils and landholders and just community members who felt that the Merri River wasn't the best it could be. And they sort of got together and formed Mad for the Merri, or Making a Difference for the Merri. We basically just started applying for funding and trying to get some works happening along the Merri to try and improve it. So a lot of our focus has been mainly on the actual, what we call the riparian zone, so the area just beside the river. So what we're trying to do is improve the water quality of what's going out. So it's got two outlets, one being the Merri Marine Sanctuary that most people know, which is down near the breakwater. And the other one is at Rutledge's Cutting, which is basically south of Tower Hill. And that only really opens when we've got enough water that it peaks and flows out. So all that Kelly Swamp area is all part of the Merri estuary, basically.
And why is making a difference for the Merri and taking care of the riparian zone and everything, why is that important for our community?
So there's lots of reasons why it's important. One is that we actually use the Merri to fish in, some people swim in it, and it empties into the Merri Marine Sanctuary. So we want the water quality to be good. We'd rather be in there and paddling in it or do whatever and not thinking about, the high E. coli levels or, what's in this water. So that's part of it. As people, we should be worried about it. The other thing which became, I suppose, obvious to me when I first started with the group was that we've got platypus in the Merri, quite a few, mainly upstream from Wollaston Bridge, but all through the Merri catchment where there's deep enough water. These are now classified as threatened species. We need to be looking after them and all the other things that are in the river. So that was part of it. While we focus on the riparian, Merri is actually really interesting in that a lot of people see the river as just having set banks and occasionally it floods out. The Merri River's got lots of little creeks and drains, a lot more than most rivers. It's like, I don't know, there must be 9 or 10 creeks coming into it. And then there's all these little drains, and in amongst it there's soaks. So that's where the spring water comes up, sort of creates a wet area and then sort of drains out to the Merri, and lots of floodplains. If you go out around Grasmere, if you go out there when it's flooding, you'll see that it's just a huge floodplain. So there's a lot of area that basically runs into the Merri, and concentrating on that area is much easier than, looking further afield, I suppose.
And Mad for the Merri's monitoring of platypi, how is that? What are you trying to achieve by monitoring those platypus?
I think it was just really awareness raising. You can monitor them to some degree, and what we've tried to do more recently is give some training about how to go about monitoring, what to look for, and recording those, whenever they see one, into a database with the Australian Platypus Conservancy. And then they verify the data, and then that goes up to their Atlas of Living Australia. So that's like the big one that all the agencies, your departments use to go, well, okay, where have we seen platypus? What if somebody's going to propose any sort of works on a waterway or whatever, is that going to disturb a habitat of a platypus? So a lot of our focus has been on trying to keep, and this is a bit hard on the floodplains, but certainly in wherever we can, is keep the cattle or sheep away from actually grazing the riparian right down to the water. And that way, hopefully you've got a bit of a buffer. So if you've got trees and grasses and stuff between and a fence, then hopefully, whatever's in the paddock will get filtered before it actually goes into the river. And of course, it's good habitat for all the other creatures that use that riparian zone. So quite often the zones along rivers and creeks is where you'll find the birds and other creatures are moving up and down. So often in our and particularly in the Western District, because we've got this beautiful basalt country, which grows great grass, and, this is where a lot of our economy comes from. It's one of the few refuges that they've got is along these riparian zones where they've got somewhere local native habitat that will be right for them.
What is one sustainable action that someone can do to help your group to achieve its goals?
I mean, there's lots of things you can do. Sometimes if you see rubbish around Merri, drains, whatever, try and pick it up, because that ends up in the waterway. And if you've got things like platypus that spend a lot of time on the bottom, so they're going through and going like this through the bottom, they can get entangled in it, or it's basically rubbish in their environment, and we don't want them to be ingesting plastic and rubbish. So pick up rubbish. I'm amazed sometimes you go past a drain and, we've had flood and it's come out of the streets and there's bottles and caps and all sorts of rubbish there. So pick up rubbish. You can join Warrnambool Coast Care or MAD for the Merri, or one of the different groups that look after some of the areas around the Merri. So you can do that. Go and weed and plant and try and make the place more attractive. What else can you do? Go for a paddle. Go and see what's actually out there. Particularly this time of year where you've got some of the areas where the floodwater's broken out into the paddocks. So anywhere, particularly if you go from the Caramel Road Bridge down, you'll see lots of areas there. Go and enjoy it. Go and appreciate it. And I think if you appreciate it, then you care for it more, and therefore you will advocate for it, that we try and look after it.
And finally, could you describe your dream green future if all of us help to make it a reality?
I'd like to see that basically most of the Merri River is fenced off or has stock removed to some degree from it. Basically that it has lots of habitat along the edge. We're looking after it well. We're trying to water stock off the river and trying to keep access for stock off the river. I think that would be really great to and I understand that's not always possible, particularly in some of the flood zones, but to at least be well aware that, that's an issue for the Merri. That'd be great to see more of that. And of course, that's up to individual landholders in town. I'd like to see more parks and more established trees along the Merri.
Thank you so much for your time and the great work that you do, and all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. It's lovely to talk to you.
You too. So getting involved with MAD for the Merri is just one opportunity that you can get involved to really make a difference for our community. Please check out the rest of the Green Futures videos for more information and actions you can take.